Welcome to Biology Made Easy. Today, we are looking at substances that move in and out of cells. Substances move continuously in and out of living cells all the time. Once the cell is living, it should have continuous supply of nutrients and continuous removal of waste. So this is a multicellular organism, have plenty of cells. Even in unicellular organism, the same thing. Substances move from the external environment into cells. The substances move from cell to cell. The substances move even inside the cells, and substances move out all the time. Now, what are the substances? We have put together the substances. They are molecules or ions, and those that move in are principally food substances, all the various types of food substances, including water. You can think about glucose, amino acid, fatty acids. You can have mineral salts that move in. They are all getting into the cell. Gases dissolve and move into the cell. Hormones, proteins, they all move in. And then substances that are not needed, injurious to the cell, move out. Substances like waste products of metabolism, nitrogenous waste, urea, ammonia. You can have other substances like lactic acids. You can have respiratory waste like carbon dioxide. You can also have excess of useful substances, water and mineral salts. They are excess. If they are excess, they have to move out. Toxins also move out. Why does excess of useful substances move out? It's an assignment that we'll try to answer. Now, let us also find out the importance of movement of substances. Now, we have put down two major reasons why substances move, and it's the same as the importance. The major reason, one is to maintain the 7 life processes. You know, life processes are going on here. Remember the 7 life processes? We'll look at them soon. Substances have to come in to maintain the 7 life processes, and substances will need to go out to maintain the 7 life processes. And substances will have to come in and go out to keep the internal environment of the cell constant. The ion concentration, the pH, the osmotic concentration, everything in this cell will have to be almost constant all the time. And that is homeostasis, which we will discuss someday. So we want to look at how substances are needed for the 7 life processes. You have nutrition, respiration, movement, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, and excretion. And all these processes need substances to come in and waste to go out. So if you pick nutrition, food substances will have to come in, gases will have to come in, hormones will have to come in. Then substances that will move out of the cell are metabolic waste, respiratory waste, and excess of useful substances. They all have to go out of the cell. Respiration, the same. You need substances like glucose, gases, oxygen, hormones, all the things that the cell needs will have to come in. By respiration, you know, it's particularly need glucose, and it will put out respiratory waste that needs to go out. Movement, you need glucose for energy. You need ions too to cause nervous and muscular activities. You know, muscles contract and relax. They need ions to be able to, ionic differences to do that. We'll discuss that in detail someday. And then all the waste that is listed will need to come out. The waste we listed in the previous lesson. Sensitivity to the same. Look, you need a cell to be sensitive. You need ions, all right, to cause changes. You need energy. You need food substances. So all the things that we have listed is needed for every life process to go on. Sensitivity the same, growth, reproduction, excretion. Excretion removes the waste products. But even before excretion is able to remove the waste products, it needs enzymes and hormones to work. And all these need energy inputs, and all these need nutrients inputs before the process of excretion will go on. So we have seen that for life processes to go on to keep the cell alive, nutrition, respiration, movements, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, we need all the substances we listed that should come into the cell. And for the life process to continue functioning correctly, we need all the waste substances we listed to go out of the cell. So substances that need to get into the cell are substances that will maintain the life processes. Besides that, there are substances that need to keep the internal environment constant. So we have listed a summary, importance of why substances move in and out, to obtain nutrients, to support all the life processes, to remove the waste from the cell so that the cell is not poisoned, to remove excess of useful substances. And this is going to be an assignment. Why is it important to remove the excess of useful substances? Then we also need to keep the internal environment here. Internal environment of the cell will have to be near constant all the time, because enzymes function within various small limits of ions. Otherwise, the enzymes will not function, hormones will not function. So the internal environment of the cell, the pH, ionic concentrations, will have to be always constant. So substances will have to move in to keep that constant and out to keep that constant. Otherwise, there will be fluctuations in the internal environment and it will stop the functioning. We also need to form stable ionic gradients for nervous and muscular contraction. What this means is that, you know, a muscle cannot contract on its own. It's the ions that build up across the muscle that causes the muscle to contract. A nerve cannot on its own pass on impulses. So it's ionic differences, gradients along the neuron that causes impulses to move so that we can sense things. So ions and nutrients moving in, very, very, very important. Then besides that, we have cells need to secrete useful substances. This cell, for instance, if nutrients go in and other waste go out, this cell can form other substances that needs to move out from this cell into another cell. So it will form substances that it will secrete, all right, release it into other cells. And if substances do not move in, he cannot make other products to secrete the useful substances and move them to other cells for the whole living organism to thrive. We have a small assignment. Suggest 3 major things that can occur if the excess of useful substances are not excreted. Well, this is what I could put down and you can add to it, and in time you can let me know. One is that if useful substances, when they build up in high concentrations in the cell and it's not removed, excreted, a useful process like respiration will stop. You see, respiration breaks down glucose to produce energy, carbon dioxide, and water. This water is metabolic water. The carbon dioxide, we know, is a waste that is taken out of the cell. But water is useful, isn't it? But this metabolic water plus water that flows in, if it's all added and then water becomes too much, then it means that respiration can stop because the amount of water in the cell has gone overboard to levels that will not allow the process, which is good, to continue. So it will stop processes which otherwise are needed. Then, if excess water and salts are left inside the cell, it will change the internal environment. And the internal environment of the cell need to be constant so that enzymes and hormones can function. Ionic exchanges can go on, enzymes can function, but once other substances build up, then the internal environment cannot be constant, cannot be near constant to keep the levels that enzymes can function. And then if excess salts are not removed, they can remain and build into higher levels, and the whole thing is toxic and poisonous, and the cell will die. Good. So I hope we had a good time. So we'll meet in our next lesson. Goodbye.